Tony, you asked me to show you the system I use, the method I use to expand the sky above the Flatiron building photo that you posted in the cohort. I looked around at some tutorials as you requested, and boy, everybody has real complicated ways of doing that, and I think I have an easier way, so let me show you the easier way. Somebody else will probably look at what I do and say, boy, Carl, that was complicated. There's an even easier way. You know, like everything in Photoshop, there's a dozen ways to do anything. So let me show you how I did it anyway. I downloaded your image, and I have it in my download folder here, so if I open the file in my download folder, there it is, open. Here comes your photograph, and we decided that we would probably look better with some sky above the building, since the building is right at the edge of the image. And the easiest way I found to do this, other than go to this complicated system of canvas size and increasing pixels or inches and all that sort of thing, that's kind of tricky. Let me just show you the easiest way is to go over to the crop tool over here, click on that, and then just grab the handle at the top there and expand it like this, and bingo, our canvas is now larger, and that's the area that we want to fill in with sky. So the way I would recommend doing it is to go to the selection tool over here, the quick selection tool, click on that and select this area. At this point, if I use content aware fill, it'll fill in the sky and do a pretty nice job, but it'll leave a couple of artifacts, and let me show you what it does when I do that. So I'm going to go edit, fill, content aware, and it fills in that area, but as you see, it picks up a little of the building here and extrapolates it up into the sky. We can fix that pretty easily. But another problem, if I deselect this, let me go to select and deselect, or Control D, and you see that there's a white line across here, and so that's an artifact that now you'd have to go along and fix all of that, and there's an easier way to do it. So let me just step backward here and edit, step backward, edit, step backward. Now this area is selected. What I need to do is expand the selection by 1 pixel so that the marching ants here along the bottom are actually down into the sky 1 pixel. And let me show you here. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about here. Zoom in pretty close to this area. As you can see, the marching ants are right here along the edge, but if I go to select, modify, and expand, and pick a 1 pixel expansion here, just expand it by 1 pixel and click OK, as you can see, that moves the selection down into the sky by 1 pixel. Now that'll eliminate that white line when we do the fill. So let me go back to full screen. I'm going to hit view, fit on screen, and now I'm going to do the fill, the content aware fill again by going edit, fill, content aware, and now it filled in that area and did a pretty good job. It looks pretty good. Let me deselect it, select, deselect, or I could have hit Control D. I'm not usually using keyboard shortcuts. I'm not a keyboard shortcut guy, generally speaking. So now the sky looks pretty good, except for this artifact right up here. And one way to fix something like this is to go in and just take the clone tool and start doing some cloning. Let me make my brush smaller by clicking on the left bracket key and start doing some cloning in this area and try to clean this up. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Let's see. Let me come down into this area, clean that up a little bit. And anyways, you can see cloning is not too bad. It's not real tedious. You could go along and clone that out, but an easier way to do that is to use Photoshop's, what do they call it, patch tool. And that's over here under the little band-aid here, the spot healing brush. You click on, right click on that, and you see the patch tool. So we'll grab the patch tool, and I'm going to use that in just a moment. First of all, I'm going to make a selection by going to the lasso tool up here. Click on that, and I'm going to select this area that we want to remove, like so. Now I'm going back over to my patch tool and click on the area that's selected and move it over like this until Photoshop says, yeah, I'd like to correct that area with these pixels over here, let go of it, and it does a really nice job of filling that area in, and even matches the tone and the brightness and that kind of thing so that it blends in nicely. So let's deselect that, and there it is. Nice job. Let's fit that on screen, and there is basically how to expand the sky. You know, that works real well with an area like that, or if you have a nondescript horizon like a prairie or something like that that you want to expand to the sides. But boy, when you have buildings on the side like we have here, if you wanted to expand this to the left, let's say, and open up this area over here for some more space, it would be very difficult to do. It's not going to work real well, but let me show you quickly how to do that. Click on that crop tool again, and let's expand the canvas by just pulling out to the left side, and click the check mark. There's any number of ways of doing this. If we go in here and select this area to fill in, expand it by 1 pixel again by going select, modify, expand 1 pixel, and then ask Photoshop to fill this in. Let me show you what happens. We go to Edit, Fill, Content Aware Fill, click OK. Photoshop does a pretty good job with the sky. Let me hit Control D and deselect that. Does a pretty good job with the sky, but boy, it just makes a real mess out of the buildings down here. Look at all this. There's all kinds of disembodied buildings and scaffolding, and even part of the Flatiron building is duplicated over here, and it just really doesn't look right. Content Aware Fill is not going to work on something like this. In fact, there's not much that works very well in this area when you have buildings like this. Let's go Edit, Step Backward, Edit, Step Backward again, and let me show you one other thing that people sometimes do. Let me go, let's see here. Pardon me for coughing there. Another thing that you can do, let's see here, how am I going to do this? I'm going to click on the rectangular marquee tool here and select this area over here. Let me inch it over with the right arrow key a little bit. And here is a feature in Photoshop that's kind of cool called Content Aware Scale. If I click on that, it gives me little handles around this area that I selected, and I can grab that and start inching it over to the left like this. You see that does a fairly good job. It doesn't really distort the building, the main building, but it really has distorted these buildings over here. Look at this. It's caused them to come squishing out. Watch that area down there as I bring it back to where it was and as I pull it out. Content Aware Scale is not really going to do a good job for this either, so let's skip that idea. But some cases in landscapes that works really well, though. You could use that to expand the canvas in a landscape. Here's what I'm going to recommend. Let's deselect this. Here's what I recommend, and you see this done fairly often. In fact, Trey does this fairly often, or I have seen him do it a few times, and some other people do it in the Arcanum, and that's to mirror the part of the image over into this area so that it doesn't look totally out of place. Let me show you how to do that. Take the rectangular marquee tool, and let's just select a little sliver over here that we want to mirror. I'm going to take this area right up against the building here, and I'm going to crop that out. Go Edit, oops, Image, I'm sorry, not Edit, Image, Crop. And now we have this little sliver of the image, and I'm going to rotate that, flip it horizontally by going to Image, Image Rotation, Flip Canvas Horizontal. And you see it flips it around to the other side. Now I'm going to select that little sliver and copy it onto the clipboard. So now it's on the clipboard. Now I can go Edit, Step Backwards a few times, or I can probably figure out where in the history panel over here I want to come back. Let's see, to here. Yeah, that's good. So I went back in the history panel a few steps so that I can show you how to paste that little sliver of the scene onto this image by going up to Edit, Paste. And now here it pops onto the screen. Let me get the little move tool here and move it around, and then we can move that over to about there. Use the arrow key to kind of nudge it into position. There we are. So now that's a way of expanding this area over here, and it looks pretty good. Let's flatten that image a little bit. I'll flatten the image so that we can look a little further into the image and see if everything looks okay. And the sky actually looks pretty good. The building looks, yeah, it's a little odd, but certainly better than what it did with content-aware fill. That really made a mess of it. So that looks pretty decent. We can expand that area over there if we needed to expand it. I'm not sure that we do, but let's assume that we did. So that's how it works. Again, that method I just showed you will work really well on landscapes, and so will that content-aware scale will work very well on landscapes. But boy, on these detailed cityscapes, it doesn't work all that well. Let me fit this back on screen. Let me edit this and crop it, I should say, and crop out that extra area that we don't need over there. And I wanted to show you one other thing while I have you here. The whole purpose of this little brief tutorial was to show you how to expand the sky, but another thing that I mentioned yesterday was I wanted to straighten the building a bit. To me, it looks like it's leaning a little to the right, and it seems to be bowed out. It looks like it's a little chubby over here, like it has a curve to it. So I'm going to go up here to the Filter Lens Correction tab. This gives me the option, if I click on the custom over here, it looks like it needs to rotate about a degree to the left. Let me hit -1, see what that looks like. -1. Yeah, that's pretty much straightens it up, so that rotation helped quite a bit there. And maybe gone a little too far. I'm looking at this bit. Let's see, let's play with the vertical perspective first. Let's move the vertical perspective around. Starting to get the top of the building near the sky, the edge again, but you know what, that does a pretty good job of correcting some of the lens distortion there, so I'm going to leave it. And now that little curved area, that little bit of chubbiness there, that barrel distortion, let's give it just a degree or two of pincushion and see if that straightens that out. Yeah, it does. That helps quite a bit too. So let me click OK. Now I can, by hitting Control Z, I can show you before and after. Before and after. Now you might say, okay, the building's still a little too close to the edge. Let's go back in and add some sky back in there again. Let's do that procedure I did earlier. So this will give you a chance to see the sky expansion one more time. Click OK. I need to flatten the image here before I do this. Okay. View, fit on screen. Now we have this area that we want to expand the sky in again here. So again, let's go over here and pick up the quick selection tool, select that area, go up to the select tab, modify, expand that by 1 pixel, and go edit, fill, content aware fill, and fill in that area. And now that it's not butted right up against a building, we didn't get that odd artifact up in there. It just expanded the sky for us. Select, deselect. There we go. Now the sky is expanded. You know, Lynn might say that's too much. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. We could always come back in and say, well, we can take some of that off. Maybe we put too much in there. There. How's that? Let me save this file. There's your original file. I'm going to save this file as Carl's Edit. I could have duplicated layers to do what I'm about to do here, but I generally don't do that. I usually work off my original, and then just whatever I've done to modify an image, I save it as a new file. So anyway, here's the modified image. Let me pull up your original image, and we can compare the two. Here it is. Let me do Control-0, makes it full screen. So there's your original image. There's my edited version. Original, edited, original, edited. And again, I'm not sure that we need this extra space over here on the left. If you decide you don't, and don't want that weirdness of the buildings there, we could crop back in a little bit here. It was nice to have that space while we were doing some lens correction and some vertical perspective distortion correction. It was kind of nice to have that extra space, but if we don't need it, let's just do that. So anyway, there's my finished version. There's your original. Edited, original. I hope that was helpful, Tony. If you have any questions, let me know. See you later.